All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Sterling Holmes hanging out here at the American Century Championship Lake Tahoe. It's presented by Greenlight Dispensary and getting a chance to talk to a man who plenty of soccer fans know, and it is Taylor Twellman joining us here in the zone.
What's up,
Taylor,
boys?
what's up, man?
Good. How are you?
Oh, I'm very good, very good. This is your first time here at the American
First time here. I've been doing probably 6 or 7 of the celebrity events. Mike Milthorpe got me involved, and I appreciate him, and here I am.
That's fantastic, man. It's this is the spot. I'll tell you what. If you can spend a week playing golf and be around here,
I agree.
It's unbelievable. So
he's walking up with a blade too, dude's a stick over here.
you looked at the club and said he's a stick based on the
I
club.
can tell right now.
Okay.
That's a good
All right.
golfer. You can tell.
Yeah, there's
You can tell.
I'm a little surprised by the odds. So
Okay. You're a little surprised that they are not good, or they are as good.
You're 11-1 is what it looks like.
Yeah.
You think it should be more of like a 5-1?
no,
You're the
11-1.
You're the ninth betting favorite.
Yes, 9th betting favorite, which is great. I love coming from behind and
Okay, there we
surprising
go.
people, so it's no problem.
Okay, man. Now I feel like I should have taken him on my
I
fantasy
need to
team.
change my bet. I
Okay,
need to
no
change
kidding. Where's
my
the
bet.
where's the
Who'd you
fantasy
guys
team?
take?
Okay, well I've got the list
That
right
becomes
here.
the better
Well,
conversation.
now I feel bad. I took Derek Lowe.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was-
D'Lo's fun.
Yeah,
D'Lo's
so-
good. He's an experienced veteran.
See,
You know, he's got it.
Right.
I went with the
Whether I
veteran.
outdrove him by 75 yards or not doesn't matter.
Neither here nor there. It does
Yep.
not matter.
I got nervous. I saw him in the middle of this round yesterday come up and in the middle of the round after 9 holes hit some shots on the range.
Yeah.
Great swing, but never a good thought process
No.
when after 9
But
holes.
D'Lo's great. He's a gamer. D'Lo's a gamer.
I took Mark Mulder with the group one.
Great one.
Yeah,
I've known Mulder for a long time. Great
yeah.
stick.
Romo and Pavelski were also taken. Those were we had 4 of us that drafted, and so out of 4 selections of Group 1, I do apologize.
Yeah.
Sorry
Where's
about
group 2? Like 3? Like I feel like you guys didn't even just put me on the radar.
that. Well, no, it's where's I can't find the list.
get it. No,
because
I
it's the
get it.
ACC
I get it.
Fantasy
Hold on.
Golf
This
thing.
is Kansas City, and me being the St. Louis guy.
Well, I mean, I wasn't gonna. Oh, here it is,
wait
right
a
here.
minute,
I wasn't
okay.
gonna mention it. Okay.
I got it.
Wait a minute.
That's good.
No, but you're in Group 1, so we can only choose from these players.
Yeah, naturally.
only people we can choose
it's,
from.
It's interesting.
Is
Oh,
Group
that's fun.
1.
That's
So,
great. Oh, that's a good story.
Look, it wasn't because of the St. Louis thing. It was
But
mainly
now
because
that I brought it up,
it was
we might as
mainly
well go
because of
there.
the St. Louis thing.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
It was
it's
only
the pizza. It's the pizza at St. Louis.
Yeah.
Come on now.
What do you mean? It's amazing.
What do you mean?
It's
Don't
unbelievable.
Give me that.
It's
Don't
great.
give me that.
Love
Yeah.
emos.
I mean, I looked at Group 1.
I
I'm
love
like, Group
ketchup.
1. Taylor Twellman marked that off. Anybody else that I?
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
exactly. No, that's not what we did at all. But that's pretty cool. I mean, how often have people said, "Yeah, I got you on my fantasy team"?
Yeah,
you know,
it's awesome.
With,
It's in all seriousness, it's important that I do this because soccer needs to be in the vernacular of professional sports in our
Love
country. MLS has been a huge part of it. The U.S. men's national team, the U.S. women's national team, and all that. So I'm going to have fun. I'll play well, but it's important that I represent the sport that I represent to the highest regard, and I'll do that.
It's an interesting point because I hadn't thought about it from that perspective of having somebody who represents soccer, who is well known, who people look at and go, "Oh, this Taylor Twellman." You know, we see him on TV or Twitter or whatever it might
Well, the
be.
hard part for this was in American Century did a real good job. They've invited me a couple times, but this week is often Copa America final, European Cup final,
Yeah.
World Cup final.
Sure.
July 14th is always the time when,
Yeah.
surprise, I'm the only celebrity here that has to work for a living. So, yeah, so it was always, I was like, I can't do it. And this year, Apple was like, listen, we need you
That's pretty cool.
to do it. So that's why I'm here today, and that's why I'm here this week. But more so, that's why I started doing this. You know, a lot of it is carrying the flag of soccer.
It's really cool. Taylor Twellman is our guest, and you mentioned with Apple and, MLS analyst and certainly Team USA and the conversation that's been going on for a couple of weeks now and since the loss to Panama and the expected, result against Uruguay. That wasn't surprising. It was really the Panama loss, and there's a lot of frustration that's certainly sensed across the country with what we're seeing with this being expected or the hopeful golden generation of American soccer, and it's been a rough couple of weeks since that Panama game, and I don't know like where we go from here, or is this a rough patch and everything's cool? Like, where do you stand on what the last couple of weeks have been like around the soccer in the United States?
I'd argue it's been an uncertain future since we failed to qualify for the World Cup.
Okay.
Now, I'd also argue you need to hit rock bottom to get to where you want to go. So if you understand who you want to be and how you want to go about it, listen, I'm on the record, been on the record, will always stay on the record. I don't believe any manager, I don't care who you are, deserves back-to-back tenures. And the reason why is the message becomes stale. The players become complacent. You have to remember it's not necessarily an all-star team, but it is an all-star team. And so when you don't have them every day and doing the same thing every day, you've got to make sure that you're pushing the right buttons. I think, and I've been on this for a while, I think the players are comfortable. I don't think they need to be and want to be comfortable with the national team. We talk about the golden generation. I've said this a couple weeks ago, and I'll say it again. They don't have a big win yet. And if we're really going to talk about the big win of the 2022 World Cup to get out of their group and then really get outplayed by the Dutch, then what was everyone telling me in 2014 when Tim Howard had to make 4,000 saves against Belgium to even have a shot? Now, granted, they did, and if Chris Wondolowski scores, they win 1-0, right? So but that's the kind of performance you need. Everyone and their mother telling me, and fans and everything, no, we need to play like this. We need to play like that. Well, now that you're playing that way, you can't even beat Panama a man down. So I just think we've lost our way in understanding in the world's game, we cannot afford to not be the guys and the group that run through a wall to do it. We cannot afford to be Brazil. And where Greg Berhalter, and just so your listeners understand, he was a roommate of mine a couple trips with the national. I've known Greg for a long time. His ideology about the game is beautiful. It's great. It's Dutch and all that. But for me, results is more important than the performance.
Yeah.
I'm American.
Yeah.
Right? And so while I want our players who are arguably more talented than my generation, I have zero problem saying that. They're playing at AC Milan. They're playing at Chelsea, Dortmund, all these big clubs, great. But we assume now that we're there, the rest of the world was stagnant in the moment. That's not true. They're still growing. They're still evolving. Look at how bad France played in the European Championships, and they still got to the semifinal. Yeah. They scored, what, 1 goal from open play? Mm-hmm. So all of this is a way of me saying I think we need to reassess who do we want to be, and we want to be still the team that is a nightmare to play against. We defend for our lives. We're better with the ball, but when you're a man down for 70 minutes against Panama, at home, you unequivocally don't lose the game. You professionally get a point. And then there will be Twitter fans and everyone else going, you tied Panama. No. Anyone with a half a brain will understand 70 minutes, a man down, we get a point. That's professional. Yeah. That is a result. Doesn't matter what it looks like. This group, I don't care what anyone tells me, I don't know if they have that.
You know, you mentioned a number of players that are playing in the European leagues, right, outside of the MLS. And for a long time, we've talked about, man, if we can just get some of these players on these bigger clubs, right, playing for these bigger clubs, you increase the skill, you increase your how good those players can be. They come back to the United States, and then we're a better team for it. My question is, how much better are they if they're simply playing for the clubs but not necessarily playing as much, as opposed to, well, yeah, these guys are in the MLS playing 90 minutes, you know, every single match, like they're 90 minutes fit, ready to go. How much does that matter? Like, you get the experience in Europe and playing against some of the best players, but really just in training sometimes.
What countries develop the most professional players in the world? I'll ask you guys.
I think it's this country.
No. Brazil.
In terms of soccer or just
soccer?
Okay, sorry, I was thinking like professional, like baseball, football, basketball.
Professional
soccer.
Yeah, Brazil.
Yeah.
When was the last time they won the World Cup? Okay, and so what I'm going at here is, if there was a formula on how to do it, everyone would be doing the same formula.
Yeah.
The 2006 World Cup. I want your listeners to literally listen verbatim what I'm going to say. Every single player for the Italian national team in 2006 in the World Cup played in one country, Italy. And Serie A wasn't in the top 4 leagues in the world. Somehow they won the World Cup.
Yeah.
And why? Every single player was playing regularly for their team. They were held accountable for losses and all of that. Why do I say that? Christian Pulisic's playing week in and week out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He feels a loss for AC Milan. He's expected that. Weston McKennie playing for Juventus. Absolutely. Tim Ream for Fulham. Anthony Robinson for Fulham. That's it. Mm-hmm. That's it. Now, maybe Balogun, Josh Sargent, but those are champions. You follow where I'm going.
Yeah.
You want to get to Europe. That's the highest level in the world, absolutely. But not to sit on the bench. Matt Turner's not playing games. Matt Turner should not start in the World Cup if he doesn't make a move right now and starts every single game. Because the Matt Turner that played in the 2022 World Cup was the goalkeeper for the Revolution for 7 years, went to Arsenal for 4 months, and then there. So don't tell me MLS didn't help him. Follow me? Graham Zusi, Matt Beazer, who your listeners know very well. They were very important for the World Cup in 14. They contributed at a high level. They were playing for Sporting Kansas City. But they were also expected to be leaders. They were held accountable for losses. So if there is the formula, then everyone would do it. There isn't the right formula. The only formula that I know in this sport that I'm playing here in Tahoe, it's reps, it's golf, it's soccer, it's basketball, it's football, it's reps. Are you playing or are you not? And practice reps versus hitting a 140-yard shot with 20,000 people in 17, which is going to come Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I don't care. I do that with my eyes closed, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there's 20,000 people there. It matters.
Yeah.
How often are these guys playing when it matters?
Yeah. I mean,
right?
Matt Beazer brought up that point a couple of weeks ago, heading into the Uruguay game after the Panama loss, and he said, look, people can talk about the MLS and talk about the 14 team and all the MLS players, and if we had more European players, how much better we'd be. He's like, but look around that roster. We had guys who were captains. We had guys who played all the time. We had guys who held each other accountable. We had guys who played in big matches in the MLS. Certainly big matches.
First off, people are stupid. Sorry, with all due respect. Clint Dempsey was at Tottenham 4 months before that. Michael Bradley and Josie Altidore were over there.
Yeah.
Right? Josie Altidore is heavily criticized for his national team stuff, but when he was playing his best for the national team, he was banging in goals left and right in Holland.
Yeah.
That's not a top league in the world,
Yeah.
but he was confident.
Right.
So I will never buy that because
I'm with
I've
you.
been in that thick. And when I look around and people have played and they're in form and they're in shape mentally and physically, I'm taking that guy versus the guy that says to me, well, I've trained at Manchester United for the last 3 years, but I've played 3 games.
Yeah.
No, give me the other guy. Give me the other guy because he's kind of already coming into this.
Yeah.
Well,
I
when
hope
you're-
that makes sense.
No,
when you're
absolutely.
creating the team, then I wonder if it's almost a symbolism where you're like, okay, well, that guy plays overseas, so he has to be a better player. When you're creating these teams, obviously you're putting them all together. Do you need to stay more in the MLS? Do you need to say, I don't care
No,
what...
there's no formula, buddy. There's
I
none.
know there's no
Here's my point. Giovanni Reyna is not playing right now. He's one of the more talented players in the United States setup. He's not playing.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be called in.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks that's a hot take. What are you talking about? He's not playing. So you can call him in fine and he's on the bench. He's starting playing every game. Now, Greg Berhalter could make a fair argument. I need to play him in this Copa America to get him a bed club situation. Okay. Before the World Cup, I get that. But now we're before World Cup where you don't have World Cup qualifying, so you don't have the luxury of this high-quality competition. And in this moment, in my opinion, you got to play the guys that are in form. You got to play the guys that are in form. And that's where it gets lost. Like the Cameron Carter-Vickers who plays at Celtic. Okay, I'll take Walker Zimmerman, man. Walker Zimmerman, I've seen. I get it. I understand it. And everyone listening is going to be, you're out of your mind. He's playing at Celtic. I know everyone that's played in the Scottish League that comes back. Lewis Morgan for the New York Red Bulls will tell you, and he's Scottish, and he's like, this league's exponentially better. But this is the illusion. In my opinion, the more Americans playing in Europe regularly, we're cooking with gas. But right now, we're not there. We got these big clubs attached to these names, but it's really only 4 or 5 guys that are playing regularly. There's a lot of guys not playing regularly. Tyler Adams has played how many games since the World Cup in 22?
Sure. Yeah.
Johnny Cardoso is playing a ton. See what I'm saying? You got to pick the guys that are in form, in my opinion. But there are other analysts that will tell you form is fallacy. James Rodriguez is a great example of that. He's had an abysmal time at the club level, yet every time he wears a Colombian shirt, he's the best player in the world.
Visiting with Taylor Twellman, we're out here at the American Century Championship in Lake Tahoe. And as we look at, like, any time the United States loses in a worldwide competition, whether it's the World Cup or it's Copa or whatever it is, the same thing happens. Like, well, if we had more people playing soccer, well, if we had our best athletes, which I hate, I can't say.
Have me throw this headset through a wall right now.
No, I hate that. I push back at that all the time because it's like, okay, how many people are in Uruguay?
3 million. I looked this up.
And
It's
how many
3.5
people?
million
Like
in
we
Uruguay.
guys, are you
Guys,
soccer?
if population mattered,
Right.
India and China would be world beaters.
Exactly right.
So what are we talking
Yeah.
about?
So where are we then from the youth side to the professional side as to whether it's developing those players as to why the foothold can't can't take place, or we can't get over that hump.
My issue is this is an American sports problem, not a soccer problem. It's way too expensive to play youth sports right now.
No, that is true.
And I was a very, very, very good, and I'm not sitting here, baseball player, and had the opportunity, Kansas City Royals.
Kansas City Royals, right?
Get it in there.
And the reason why I brought that up is I paid $200 to play the highest level. Right? You're asking the highest level soccer players, baseball players, some basketball, even though AAU sponsored, $2,500 at the cheapest level, $7,500 at the most expensive. What are we doing, guys? Now, anyone that says pay to play is ridiculous, it should be free, well, now you're idiots. I lived in Germany for 3 years. Everyone pays. But they're not paying this. And the problem is not to go down this rabbit hole, but a lot of it was based in our culture about a college scholarship. Okay? And in men and women's soccer, they're not even fully funded half the time.
Yeah, right.
So what are we doing?
Yeah.
To answer your question, long-winded way of getting there, it's got to be way more inclusive versus exclusive. And I've said this, and I'll say it again. If I was running U.S. Soccer, I would make sure the minimum level of coaching in our country at all levels, so the Kansas City State, the minimum level is a B license. And why am I doing that? Because every parent or anyone coaching that, I'm raising the lowest tide.
Yeah.
So we don't have F and all these licenses. No, B license. Make it mandatory. So now we're coaching the game the right way. But to get in a car and drive 2.5 hours to go play a game, guys, what are we doing? We want to bring people into it, and this is not a soccer problem. Ryan Howard, MVP of the Phillies, grew up with me. We played Legion baseball, right?
Yeah.
He tells me about youth baseball, guys. It's gross.
My son lost his bat bag, left it at the park a few weeks ago, and our throat was in our stomach when we started adding up the helmet, the gloves. He had 3 baseball gloves in there and 2 bats.
But that's just the equipment.
That's just the equipment, right? And then also to play in the tournaments, then there's the jersey, the travel that goes along with it.
And then we're taking away from the family values and mom and dad having a weekend with their family because you're spending 85% of it in a car. Mm-hmm. This country's too smart for this. What truly, and I'm not against the business side. I'm not. But the business is outweighing the development of the person and the athlete. And I firmly believe, and anyone, I know where you're going, the best athletes if they played soccer. If anyone listening to this says that again, I'm going to have an issue with you. LeBron James would not be a good soccer player. Neither would Patrick Mahomes.
That's right.
And you're saying to Kylian Mbappe, he's not a good athlete.
Right.
By the way, Tyreek Hill and Kylian Mbappe, I may take Mbappe in a 100-yard race. Think of that. And yet we sit here because we're so bravado about Americans. Get it? What are you talking about?
What?
I just watched the NBA draft. What was it? 8 of the first 15 picks.
French.
We're not American.
3 of the first 6 picks, 1 and 2 were French.
And we're not talking about that?
Is anybody in France going, well, if all of our French, if we would stop playing soccer and just play more basketball.
Right.
So that's my point about we're going to watch the Olympics with the U.S. men's team. Well, it's not the dream team anymore. The other countries have caught up, and those other countries, guess what? They play soccer.
They do.
And yet they've caught up in basketball. That's our sport.
Right. Here's the best
example.
example I'll give, because I'm glad you brought up the Olympics, because a lot of your listeners are going to be watching the women's national team. And the women's and men's Olympic team, just for everyone to understand, the men, it's everyone's under the age of 23 except 3 players. The women, it's their full national team. And the reason why they do that, you can grow that game. They don't want to take away from the Men's World Cup. Anyways, I explain that. When you're watching the women's national team right now, they are not the best team in the world anymore. And why? Because the rest of the world said, you know what, we're actually going to pay attention to the women. We're actually going to fund the women. Yep. We're going to teach them the same way we teach the men. And how quickly did that gap change? Yeah. So everyone that says, oh, imagine if Tyreek Hill and Mahomes all played soccer. Oh, my God. I'm not saying Allen Iverson wouldn't have been a hell of a soccer player if he played. That's not what I'm saying. Yeah. But it is a very select few type of athlete that turns into a soccer player like that.
And I don't watch the men's national team on the national stage and look at it and go, man, they just got out-athleted.
No.
I don't think I've ever said that once watching them.
But we've gotten away from using that to our advantage, which means, and this is why the Jesse Marsh conversation with Greg Berhalter has been there. Yeah. Marsh's style relies on the athleticism and the go-for-it mentality. Greg's style is position, it's tactics, but Greg, throughout his entire professional career, you can look at the numbers, they don't score a ton of goals, right? So
Right.
you look at it's 11 games they've played in top 10 opponents, not named Mexico. They're 0-6-5.
Yeah, without Mexico, he hasn't beaten a top 20 country.
I rest my case,
yeah,
right?
it's
But those are things. But I care way more about our youth than I
Yeah.
do about the men's national
get
team,
it.
because I firmly believe that this sport is the most economical sport in the world.
Yeah.
You need a ball, you need a pair of shoes. You can make a goal out of anything you want. We need more people playing. We
Yeah.
don't need less.
Yeah.
And anyone that tells you the otherwise, they're missing the point.
Yeah.
They're missing the point. And if we fix that, I think fundamentally, along with improving the coaching, because we still have parts of this country where coaching is not up to par of what really it's about, but that's really a youth sports issue in the United States.
Taylor Twellman's our guest. Last one for you. You mentioned rooming with Greg and all of that and your love for Greg, but one rotation, one World Cup, and then find somebody new. If you had your choice, maybe somebody attainable, because it doesn't seem like now Jesse Marsh is going to be attainable.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've always said that about anyone. For me, this World Cup, especially now after failing in Copa America, I would hire the biggest personality you can, and here's why. For 18 months leading into that World Cup, I want to take all the attention away from this so-called golden generation of player. And if you give me Jose Mourinho, you give me Jurgen Klopp, you give me anyone you can get of that ilk, you immediately take the attention away from the players.
Yeah.
Now, some people would say, well, you're full of it, Taylor, because actually it puts more pressure on the players because now they've got a world-class manager. And no. What are you talking about?
Well, it puts pressure on the players to go and re-earn their spot.
But
They're
it
comfortable
also has a manager that's
Yeah.
completely comfortable in walking into this country. Where I love when people say there's so much pressure with the United States men's national team. Oh, sure. I'm sure Jose Mourinho hasn't dealt with that, or Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool. You follow where I'm going?
Yeah.
That's how I would do it. I think the Steve Cherundolo, the Pat Noonan, the Jim Curtin, the MLS coach that has really put a ton of work into their craft, I do think there's something down the road for them. I really believe that. But Steve Cherundolo's one more than Greg Berhalter ever has, and I still think it's too soon for Steve. I do. I think Steve deserves to grow into himself, to understand who he wants to be. He's done 3 seasons in MLS.
Yeah.
He's won. Awesome. Don't get me wrong. But you follow what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
18 months of the most important summer since the 94 World Cup. You give me the biggest personality we have, and it takes all the attention away from the players and let the chips fall where they may. And I believe in my heart, now being in the media world, that big personality would be massive for the sport.
Yeah.
Would be massive. Imagine Jose Mourinho.
Oh, I would love to
And
imagine
every
that. Yeah.
quote.
I would love that.
And everyone's laughing probably right now listening to me. Like, he hasn't brought up a single thing about tactics because he's got that side
right.
down.
Yeah.
But Jose Mourinho would come in and, guys, we're defending first. And all the fans will come at me on Twitter and go, look at how boring this is. Well, is it? Because Gareth Southgate's the most boring manager I've ever seen. Right? 18 World Cup. Sorry. Was it 18 World Cup? Yep. 18 World Cup. Where'd they go? Semifinal. 20 Euros. Where'd they go? Final. 22 World Cup. Where'd they go? Semifinal. 24 Euros. Where are they? Playing in the semifinal right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's boring. Great. Awesome. Oh, semifinals of major tournaments. That's
I
odd.
prefer winning.
Sounds
I
terrible.
prefer winning.
Well, think about it, too, because if you really go back to the England part, Wayne Rooney, Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, Paul Scholes, that golden generation, they
Yeah.
didn't make a single semifinal in 27 years.
Yeah, the trophy never came home.
Never came home. And I don't think it ever does because of Gareth Southgate being a little boring, but at least he's getting there. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. Taylor Twellman, we got to let him go.
I was going to ask. I assumed he just didn't join the Royals because of his
because
love
it was-
for St. Louis. You couldn't be a Royal.
If it was the Cardinals, would you be a baseball player? The Cardinals in St.
Oh,
Louis?
boy, you're touching. No, I would have played soccer no matter what. But the Royals at that time,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's-
You got to remember, do you know when they made that offer? Do you know, like, I played shortstop. A-Rod, Nomar, these guys were hitting 45 home runs. So the Royals looked at me and they're like, listen, we think you can play. We're going to send you a rookie ball. I go, oh, great, shortstop. And they're like, probably second base. Maybe center field. You're not going to hit 45 home runs.
Yeah, no, that's and you would have been. You'd have been a part of a Royals organization that at that time had a bunch of younger players, but we were just getting ready to embark on a bad stretch of baseball.
You
So
made the
I
right
think you
choice.
made the right choice.
I think I did too.
Taylor, thank you so much for stopping by.
No, this
man.
is great.
Very much enjoyed.
I
Thank you so
appreciate you guys talking about Sporting Kansas City in the game because it only helps it grow.
Absolutely. There's Taylor Twellman joining us. We are hanging out here in Lake Tahoe, the American Century Championship. Our coverage presented by Greenlight Dispensary. More Zone next.